Hello, AfterBuzzers, and welcome to Chapter 4 of Genius. Einstein's got a lot going on, writing 4 papers, having a new baby, and working in that damn patent office. Stay tuned to find out all the juicy gossip.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh my gosh. Hans Zimmer, starting with these bold notes, this intense music. How are you guys doing? This was an intense episode. How are you guys doing emotionally?
A lot of drama with the mother-in-law.
It took me for a whirlwind. It fooled me. I was very happy. It was a good opening. Like, it was happiness half the episode, and then it just dropped me off a cliff.
It was happiness for one person most of the episode.
But they're noticing him finally after struggling with 3 papers.
We'll talk about Einstein because I have some things to say to him this episode. You were foolish. But before we dive into the episode, let's let you know who we are. I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique, every week at blackgirlnerds.com, and every Wednesday on Schmoes Know. And this is the amazing panel.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be back. My name is Louiza Sharamatyan, and you can find me on Instagram at Nobody Reads Anymore and on Twitter at Nobody Reads.
How you doing, AfterBuzzers? My name is Zach Silverman. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Zach with a CH Silverman 2.
Louiza and Zach, I'm so glad to have you guys back. Louiza, I know you've been reading the book. What are your thoughts so far? Give us an update since last week.
So here it is. Walter Isaacson does such a great job of removing the science celebrity out of Einstein, and we see the struggling husband. We see the struggling worker trying to, get acknowledgement by the science establishment, and it's just so detailed and so personal. You feel like you're just in his world.
Yes.
So I just love it every day. Yeah.
It sounds like a must read. Zach, you're playing Chat Master today. If you're live in the chat, give a hey to Zach.
Yes, give a shout out to us. Right now we have Brian and Randy joining
Hi,
us. Hello. Thanks for joining.
If you guys watch us live, which we come on at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time every Thursday. That's the date. And you can always join us live in the chat. But don't hesitate. If you reach out later, we're on the Twitters, we're on the gram, iTunes. Leave us messages. We love it.
Please.
We start this episode where Marie meets Curie, and we get to see what genuine, I don't know if that, I'm going to call it, I'm just going to be really petty this episode because I feel it in my soul, guys.
Please.
We see genuine love between Marie and her Mr. Curie, and it's so sweet, and they love science and supportive. And how did you guys like this first scene?
I loved it.
It's 2 beautiful minds connecting and noticing what they're worth. And I think it was a typical beautiful love scene that they focused on 2 curious people coming together, and they even get married. So yeah,
the evolution of the 2 of them, and I didn't know where they were going with it at first. I kind of knew who she was and knew the achievement, but I was like, why are they showing us this? Like, what's the comparison?
Find out later.
There's actually 2 comparisons, which is actually pretty cool. But the one comparison, I kind of knew why they were going that way. But
give us the one you knew.
Well, I knew the fact that Einstein or Albert uses radium to figure out energy equals mc squared. You could calculate the mass of light that way. And I just didn't realize why they were showing the love aspect of it. So, and we get to that later.
But we certainly get our comparisons later.
Yes.
Let's jump into Einstein's story. So
Einstein. I love how they say Einstein.
Einstein. So he's at the patent office, and for 3 weeks, he's been working on figuring out if the synchronized clock situation is real, if this design would work. And his problem is that, yes, it works in theory. You can synchronize 2 clocks to each other. The problem is, what if a clock were on a moving train? Which everyone is like, why are we asking this question? Why would you put a clock on a train? You'd have to disassemble it to put it on the train in the first place. And I like that this highlights kind of what genius looks like at first, which is madness. Like, why spend 3 weeks on this? Did you guys feel for Einstein's boss in this moment at all?
So ruthless.
Is he ruthless, or is he a man trying to run a shop?
No, he's a man trying to run a shop. He's just like
appreciating his curiosity, and the coworkers.
Money doesn't have 3 weeks to wait for your curiosity, Einstein. You might be brilliant, but that's not what we're here to do.
Well, he did say that this is your bread and butter. Get your stuff together, or you will get fired. But did you see that scene when he was introducing to his coworkers about the time clock and everything, and how they didn't care? They were kind of almost making fun of him in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they didn't understand the concept of it. You know, so why should they?
Why would
And
they?
they genuinely seemed curious at first. I think the way we see Einstein describe a lot of things, where people at first are like, "Oh, good question."
Yeah.
I do, and then he starts breaking down like why this doesn't work, and you're like, "And now I'm lost.
Yeah.
I really want to follow you on this journey, sir, but you're now smarter than I am. I can't go there with you."
Yeah.
Yeah. So some frustrations at work. His boss does throw in like, "Hey, you have a wife and a kid at home, so." Maybe be concerned about
Yeah.
that. We already know how Einstein feels about that. Because he has to stay and finish his work, he is late to see Professor Klein. Einstein's pitching a doctoral thesis. This is what he wants to work on. He's an hour late, so he gets a minute to pitch. And he wants to throw something in the 237 years we believed in this fundamental law that light, it travels at the same pace. It's constant, right?
Light is constant.
Yes.
Newton says that light travels at the same speed always, and it's indefinite. It's
Science guy.
And in 10 seconds. He did in 10 seconds versus a minute.
He
so.
sure did.
Oh, that
He
was
didn't
kind of
need
cool.
that long.
Yeah,
like-
explaining his theory and everything. Yeah, that was very ballsy of him to go up against the doctor and just be like, "This is what I believe."
How bogus is it that he gets drawn off because, like, we've known this for a long time, right? But I just gave you real proof that might not work, and you're not even the littlest bit curious?
He was a little bit, though. His
You
facial
think?
expressions, I was looking at it, and I was just like, oh, he's got him. I'm like, okay, this is going to go well for him. And then, I don't know where it went wrong, but I think when he was trying to say, like, 273 years or something it was, I think that's when he lost him and was just like, yeah, this isn't going to fly.
I mean, they're so focused on only talking about what's been proven. They
Yeah.
don't want to open their minds to this amazing, curious soul.
Yeah.
You know?
I felt like he was down when he was like, look, so I've got these two principles. I think I can use them together. And he was like, oh, this is very modern. Like, he's like, and it disproves a very old thing. No, we don't go against Newton. He's a god. Why would you do that?
In our Galileo. How can you?
So then after work, which is awful, after trying to get back into academia, which is a giant failure, he goes home to his wife and his wife's parents and baby number 2.
Hey, they have a very nice house.
They do
patent
live in a nice
The
home.
parents help them out.
No, they
No?
didn't. No, the patent office is paying him really well.
Yeah, Einstein
We
won't take
find out
anything.
that the dowry was turned down. The 20 francs, 20,000. Yeah, 20,000
Yeah,
francs
yeah.
was turned down. Which I was like, hey, you know what? Good for you, Einstein, because he's,
Yeah.
you know, I love you for who you are, Maleva.
Yeah.
Not,
This is not a business, it's not a
yeah, it's not a
transaction.
transaction. So
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's very forward moving, very forward thinking of him. I would like to think. But no, yeah, he's living in a nice dig.
He is, but he comes in kind of in a huff and he storms upstairs. And Maleva is like, "Take this, baby. I have work to do. What's wrong,
Yeah.
sweetheart? How can I help?" Because she is the best spouse ever. Get you a woman like Maleva. She holds it down. She does. She's like, "I'm sorry. You're not happy they don't notice you? People don't notice me all the time."
Oh my God, that was a
Write your
common
paper.
theme.
Yeah.
Like that was, she ended the episode with that, and I felt so badly. Finally, they were on the same page, though. Well, not they didn't end the episode that way, but yeah, they're on the same page.
She's
Poor
not that.
Maleva.
I think she's not that maternal, but she's struggling because she wants to be part of that physics life so much. And
Yeah.
Einstein is not noticing, but he is leaving her out.
It's frustrating because this is really a sort of a class issue, sort of at the time definitely at the time a women's issue. And this idea, like, if you have help, right, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
if you have somebody who's like, oh, I can feed and like
Yeah.
hold the baby, and then when you have time, like come in and like bond with it later, you can pursue your career. But Maleva's kind of slowly being forced into this role as a mother,
As a mother.
and we'll get more into that as we go along. But what I find interesting is how much Einstein like cares but does not want to get involved in that. He's like,
Oh, he was
he's
a
like,
coward
you
in
should
this
help.
episode.
Oh,
He was. I was not happy with some of the things he was doing, especially when his
Horrible.
mother came into the picture.
Did not back her
Yup.
up at all. At all.
Well, I mean,
We have to talk more about that scene.
We'll get into it. We'll get into
yeah,
it.
we'll get into
I
it.
have a lot to say.
So she says, I can never afford to give up. But she says, I'll help you with your proposal. Like, you'll do your work. I'll be here, like, helping you research at
Yeah.
night. Like, we'll put ideas together.
Yeah.
It feels at this point in time, not knowing what we know at the end, but at this point in time, it feels like it could be a partnership.
Yeah.
You getting this
We
inkling of
think
like,
so,
oh,
yeah.
this is gonna work.
There's that mirroring with the other couple back in 1895, I think it
Which
was.
she
It was
mentioned. She's
back
like,
and forth.
oh, you
Yeah,
were kind
yeah.
of like, But did you see how that scene where they're both working hard together, it kind of, looks like back in the day when they were in college.
did.
It did, yeah.
It
The over
definitely
the
did.
shot,
Yeah.
over the table. That
You know,
was
as
awesome.
a partnership. So that
Yeah.
was nice to see.
So then Albert decides he's going to publish. He's going to try to get something published. And he does. It's a success. We see, oh goodness, hold on. I wrote their names down, but it's back here.
I think it was
Max Lauer,
Max
Plunge, and
Planck
Planck.
and Dr. Lauer.
There you go.
Yep, his associate.
Lauer and Planck.
And he's basing all of his principles off of Planck, which we saw previously in that. What we actually saw in the second episode, where Philip Leonard was making note of we don't. It's like heretic. It's not science that we should be following. He's just going off the rail and everything.
Were you guys shocked when Planck was like, I don't care, it's impossible?
Not at all. I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. But
He
I was
just
shocked.
totally disregarded him. I mean, there's this
Yeah.
concept of because he was proving molecules. It was first off the way that they described it, where he dropped the sugar into the coffee. I thought was awesome. It made perfect sense. And then it's a concept that we know. We talked about this, and it's just like it's a known fact, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, it's there. We know about molecules, but he's just like, no, sorry, it's not real.
I love
don't
how
believe it.
Dr. Lauer is pushing it through. He's saying basically that this guy is answering questions that no one's asking before, and give him a chance.
Lauer's on fire with this idea.
Yeah.
Like, even just from the very first article, he's like, no, but he's like using your stuff. And I thought, maybe a little bit of pride, maybe a little bit we've been viewing the scientific community through the scope of this show, which is everybody has to build off the previous person. I thought at least one person would be excited that their work is being used to generate new ideas. But alas, he was not. He said, put that away. We're not really interested. I don't know who that guy is. Let's move forward. Albert decides it says 4 weeks. I like when Maliva's father is like, what were you expecting, a parade?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you're
probably
right.
right. Yeah.
And you're also right.
Yeah.
I'm going to make
publish
more
another paper.
papers.
Yeah.
I just have to have an idea. Oh,
Which he has plenty of. I mean, even his stepfather, not stepfather, his father-in-law even was just like, yeah, there's plenty of problems all surrounding you. Like,
yeah,
Mileva
as
looks at
Maleva's
her
dealing
dad.
with bills, it
Yeah.
looks like she
Bills,
stacks
babies,
papers,
yeah,
all
all
kinds
that
of
stuff.
things.
And I
Yeah.
think to help Einstein focus on his passions at work, he brings in Bezos, his friend, so he can have
Yes.
that time. Which was, who does that these days? Like bringing in someone to help you while I focus on. Back in the day.
I guess the times were.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Bezos was even working,
Well, I don't.
or maybe he was like a teacher.
He
or
was
something.
a teacher, and they make mention that Albert makes a lot more money than everybody
Twice
else.
as much.
Yeah, twice as
So
much.
I feel like he's like, and he also complained that he gets so much more work than everybody else because he's the
Because
only
of what
person who
he-
understands physics. So it makes sense to me that at this point, like to your boss, you'd be like, look, not only can I get the work done, but when I do, I do. Like it's good when it's done. Let me bring someone in to help me in the interim.
Well, it'd be
and
helping him in turn also because they'll
Yeah.
get more patents coming into the office that finish quickly and people understand it and get it.
But Bezos knew why he was there. He was he's such a great friend.
He's a very good friend.
They remained friends, I believe, all throughout Einstein's life.
They
too.
did.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
In the book, that's what it says.
cool.
Yeah.
So then we get another flashback with the Curies, and they decide that they need their own lab. They're making breakthroughs. They're falling more in love.
They
That
discovered
was-
radium.
Not quite yet.
Not yet.
Okay, because he asks her to name it, right? And she says,
No, that's
later.
That's
That's
later.
later.
But
Okay.
going off of what you were saying with they need to get a lab together. That's kind of like his marriage proposal.
Yeah.
That's like his getting down on one knee and be like, "Here's your ring." Like, and she was so happy. The kiss, it was a good moment.
It's so
It was
beautiful.
beautiful.
And from there we flash back to our couple, Einstein and Maleva, and he's telling her, like, I want to prove the existence of molecules. This great visual effects with the sugar.
Well, no, he already proved the existence of molecules. Now he wants to prove.
We did it scientifically. He did it with math. He proved the theory of molecules.
Now you have to see it. So he's measuring how fast molecules move.
Exactly. And she
Thank you, Zach. You're just right with this whole physics background, just putting it all together.
And she's Maleva is their love at this point is like peak to me. Like it is so beautiful in this moment. She's like, that's so ambitious. You're gonna do it.
I
like
love seeing these moments where she sees his genius and she's like, I'm with the right person. This is who I'm supposed to be with.
Yeah.
But we don't see it in the opposite. Because we had in the beginning of their love, Einstein being like floored by her genius,
The passion
and the
and all
passion.
that.
But like, she's the mom now. She's stuck at home and she doesn't have these times to like study and come up with her own ideas and concepts. And I am missing seeing Einstein being excited for her.
I think he's
reverse.
insecure now. I think he's struggling with these papers and no recognition.
No, I think
he
it's the
takes it
complete
home,
opposite.
though,
I don't think
really?
he's insecure at all.
I
think-
actually agree with you. I
Really?
think that
Yeah.
look, he says like I'm not ashamed to admit that I want awards and accolades.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't feel respected, and that's getting under his skin. It took him forever to get respect from his father. His father's on his deathbed before he gets any kind of respect from his father, and I think he just wants the notoriety he knows he's due. And I think he does kind of take that out, and we can see it in this next scene. Where Albert, this is where he's complaining that he gets 4 times as much work, even though he's making more money. And he says, I want to wake up and pursue my passion. Yeah. He had a passion for Maleva before. Now he's got passion about the work, and it's not paying off. And I think it's very frustrating for him. This scene introduces an idea as time as a privilege. And as we've been playing around with time as, relative, time as owed to other people. Yeah. And now we move into time as a privilege, which is crazy to me, because I feel like the only thing it totally does. It makes
total sense. I mean, dealing with death and everything. You're going off of, is this after the brother passed? Are we talking
Julius?
about?
No.
Okay,
time as a privilege comes in when he's talking to his friend, so he can get to the other friend, and the friend's like, you make more money than I do there, then here's a teacher. And the idea that privilege, because time is the only thing you're kind of, at least if you look at American legal structure, your life is yours to live how you want to live it, and your life is measured literally just in time.
We can't buy more time.
And so, exactly. And so it's a finite thing. So the idea that it's a privilege and that you don't have access to how you spend your own time is ridiculous. And yet, because Einstein has this job, which his boss later points out, he does owe himself to the company during these hours.
Yep.
And I like that we kind of explored that idea, because it's something that keeps me up at night.
Well, and when the mom comes to, I know if we're kind of jumping forward, but when the mom comes to visit him, she says, stay in this safe atmosphere. You have your 9 to 5. You're making good money. Yeah. And I don't think she understands what
she doesn't understand
her child wants to do.
No.
She does a little bit, because she's like, follow your dreams still. She's not putting down what he wants to do, but she wants him to be a little bit more realistic. Like, look, you have a wife, you have a baby now, you have this house, you have to pay for things. Your wife isn't really being a wife, so you have to step up as a man to be the head of the family and make sure your wife is, being the wife, not a scientist.
Yeah, so speaking of not understanding your kids, Julius is having
That was out of nowhere.
Schizophrenia tends to hit around 21.
Oh my God.
So
that's
scary. Is that what it was that happened to him?
I think so.
Okay, I didn't get to read up on it, but I
thought it was exorcism or something.
Well, if you believe that the devil can take over a body, then maybe he definitely does spout a lot about religious things.
That's what it was.
But
I thought that's funny.
It strikes me as schizophrenia, because usually you lead a typically an atypical life for the first about 17 years, and then you'll start seeing a little bit of changes here and there. And obviously it's a mental disorder that can be managed now, but they had no idea what to do. I mean, his therapist suggests just keep a normal routine. It's clear everyone it's clear everyone around the table is kind of nervous and jumpy, and he's like, no, the devil's out to get you. So it was kind of tragic, because they're such a close family, and this scene is really difficult to watch.
2 different dimensions, seeing him last, from the second episode to now, it's sorry, go ahead.
Him as a father figure, I think, developed more after the funeral scene. He realized that, okay, I have a son, I don't want to lose any more moments with him.
We do get some growth with Einstein.
The end, but I think that funeral scene woke him up.
Yes, it did. Speaking of waking up, Maleva's parents have woken up and said, we cannot stay here forever.
Nope.
We have a life.
Going back to work.
I have been called back to work. Daddy's been called back to work. He's got things to do. And he's like, but don't worry, Maleva, I'm going to take care of you.
I'll bring my mom.
And Albert turns down 20,000 francs, which you mentioned a little bit earlier, but let's really dive into that.
Yeah.
We could just convert it to USD, because why not? $20,000, and especially 1930s. What is this, 1920s? It's got to be even earlier than that. What are we
1904, isn't it?
Yeah, we're in 1904, 1905.
It's his miracle year.
20,000?
That would be a lot. And I thought, and it seemed as if they were pretty poor, Maleva's parents. Where they were living, it looked like they had a tiny house. We don't know what, at least in the show, we don't know what her father does. So 20,000 francs is.
And that was going to set her up, and it would have given her space to get a nanny and stuff. Once you get a kid to 5, they can pretty much watch themselves. It's those first 5 years you really got to be watching out. And so so I told Maleva's understandably upset. Albert, that sweet talking son of a bee, just so good with the
answer
words.
to everything.
He does, and he's like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. I love you. I didn't want to reduce you to a dollar amount. Okay, but now I have to do all the work that money. But don't even worry about it. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna call my mom."
Have my mom
Worst
come in.
idea ever.
Well, I mean, they played it off nice. She came in respectful. It seemed as if, like, time has passed, and she became okay with the idea of, hey, I have a grandson now, and he is married to Maleva.
There was a lack of communication.
No, there wasn't.
She didn't know why she was really there.
Albert told her. Albert told her right up. I think he did.
He didn't say you have to come watch the baby so my wife can help me at the library.
Well, later scenes might suggest that Albert told both women whatever they wanted to hear, and then was like, busy yourselves with whatever.
Bye.
I'm working. And that's the thing, is Albert is jerk by proxy. Like, Albert's not an intentional guy, like, going out and be like, hey, I just want to screw over your life and make you miserable. He's the guy who's like, I don't want to deal with this, so hopefully if I just go away, everything will solve itself. Please, nobody be mad.
We have Brian in the chat saying that this episode really shows how different Einstein respects and appreciates Maleva compared to Pierre Curie and his relationship with Marie.
Yes, watching
agree.
the two love relationships, it's
definitely a pairing in itself.
It was a challenge because I think I had grown so much to love Einstein and Maleva. And I wanted, even though right away, right at the top, they're like, so that doesn't work out, so don't get attached. I got attached. And now I'm sad because I wanted them to be together. And then for them to show this other, like, perfect couple, like, just so beautiful and loving and supportive.
I think Brian is also talking about that episode where, if we fast forward, when Pierre gets announced that he will get the Nobel Prize, he doesn't want to leave his wife out.
Yes.
And then you see
I think
Einstein,
that's a stand-up thing. And I knew
good point, Brian.
I knew the second we saw that happen, we're gonna have Einstein not doing the same exact thing.
Yes.
And that I was so upset with him. He mentioned Beso in the paper and not Maleva. And like Maleva has helped on 4 papers. And just because Beso was there by proxy in the same room working with him, now he's the new go-to
His
guy.
excuse was bold too.
as
The
a
idea
guy-
of, like, it's our name, and so I didn't even want. And the idea that he couldn't stop for a second to like look at her and see, like, what I want is recognition. The only thing I want is the exact same thing you want, and you refuse to see me enough to get it after being invisible to so many people, and after sacrificing the strongest relationship she had with her father for this one. I understand why Einstein won't pick up the phone in the first episode, because I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
I heard this person, please.
Yeah, and this is also coming off of the scene right before it where the mother was just like, why don't you open up your eyes and see what you really are?
Okay, let's get into the mother.
God,
So
the
I have a
mother.
quote, as usual. I have
please,
my
let's get some
collection of
quotes.
quotes. So that scene where Mileva and her mother-in-law are on the table, and I think she was late because Mileva had to go to the library or something like that.
No, the mother was late coming home, and she had to go to the library to help
Okay,
Albert.
but before that, she said, if there is one thing my son doesn't need help with, is science. But with the rest of his life, he is hopeless. Lucky for him, he has a wife.
Now here's the thing. That's for sure a mom.
Yeah.
Like, that's a mom who's like,
Total
this kid can barely lace up his shoes.
Like, be a wife.
And she wants someone to take care of her son. And in that moment, I was glad that kind of came early in the mother's introduction to the episode, because this is a moment where we see, like, oh, that's genuine love for Einstein and a complete misunderstanding of what he wants in a partner.
Yeah.
Because
she thinks he just wants a wife when in reality he wants another scientist,
I
another
think
like
she wants
mind.
him to have a wife, and I think she was so married to the idea of him getting married to Marie.
She's just,
which she
she'll take
mentions
anything.
very clear.
Oof.
And I think towards the scene, she even says to Mileva that you are not his partner, you are his librarian, you are his clock. That's when Albert said, okay, Mom, get out.
You know what's really frustrating about that scene?
At least
is that
he
we
stood
just,
up for her. Finally.
At least.
Finally.
Yeah, that time.
Too little too late, Albert. But at that scene, those words were particularly crushing because when she does do his clerk work, when she is at the library, even there she can't get away from, like, creepo.
Being a mother.
Did you
no,
see
not
that
creepo.
part?
No, I think what that scene was defining was she can't get away with being a mother. She's a mother first now,
breast
and
milk
not
was
because
I
she
feel
had
like
breast
that's
milk.
multi-layered. She couldn't get away from being a mother, but she also can't get away from being a woman. She came here to,
great way
like,
of looking at it.
study.
Okay.
She came here to study, and this guy is not. It's not like, you clean yourself up. Like,
No,
did you
yeah.
notice? It was.
Yeah.
It's like a straight, like, oh my god.
There's a woman in the
boob and
library.
milk and what is
I
happening?
don't know.
It was sexualizing
I
her.
first
Come
thought it
on.
was a
Totally.
stain, but then I
No.
realized, no, that's
Okay,
breast
I'm
milk.
pretty sure it was like, one, there's a woman in this library that's kind of strange. Why are you here and you're reading mathematics and science? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't really see that too often. Two, you have a stain on your shirt. Like you're, you know, lactating. I don't think it had anything to do with like immaturity or whatnot, or kind of like,
I
oh, there's a
disagree
girl.
wholeheartedly,
Okay,
but
all
I
right.
respect it. His face gave me real creepo factors.
Really?
Yeah.
He seemed familiar though. I thought for some reason that was her professor.
Oh, from
The one that like originally gave her the shot. It looked.
Viewers, let us know. They did look similar.
They did look
Yeah,
similar, right?
I didn't think
No.
they were the same person, but that doesn't mean that they weren't.
Hey, look, they all had mustaches back then, so it's
They
kind of hard to
did.
tell.
They also had the
mean,
uniform, the suits.
I
They
know,
were
right?
very-
Yeah.
I want to personally shout out to the actress who's playing Pauline Einstein. Her name is, I think, Claire Rushbrook. She lives that character. The way she...
The mother.
Yeah, the mother. Yeah, the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the odd guy at the library.
Yeah. Odd guy at the library.
We had a flash scene to Philip Leonard. Shout out to Philip again, to the actor,
Michael, yay.
to Michael. Yeah, we had a little scene about him winning the Nobel Prize in
10 years
1905. Well, no, he revised. He revised some. He upgraded something
Okay.
of his that was like a 10-year revision, and he was bitter.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
bitter. He's like, yeah, this is just a nod to me because you guys kind of messed up in the first
Yeah.
one.
He was talking to Max Planck, and he said, make sure Einstein doesn't do to you what Rushkin, is that how you pronounce it?
Rushkin
Did to me.
Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
how you can tell about a person just by their last name. You racist jerk.
Really getting into it. Yeah,
Super
they're showing
racist
the-
Nazi. I want to talk. Okay, so Maleva's scene where she kind of finally breaks down is like, I want you to defend me.
Okay.
Did you guys, before Einstein does, and as we said earlier, it feels like a little too late. Were you guys expecting before this moment for Einstein to step up to the plate to
No.
defend her at all?
No, because this is like
No.
the third time I think. Because there's very little. There's one or two moments prior to this where the mother's like nitpicking at her, and Einstein doesn't really say anything, and it builds. It's just a building. And in this one, I was kind of like, Einstein is not going to step up to
He's
the
just
plate.
in his own world. And
Yes.
I can't, for me, especially with reading the book and seeing what kind of struggling worker he was at this time, I don't see him as that perfect husband. It's not in his nature.
He's not a husband.
He-
I mean,
yeah, he's
who
not a
said it?
husband.
Somebody mentioned, or his friend mentioned, like, you don't care for this baby. Let's just be honest.
So
like, it is your
sad,
son,
yeah.
but you don't really want a son.
Yeah, Einstein's kind of emotional self was all over the place. Particularly when we get to the funeral and we see kind of this first hint of humility when he's talking to Marie and she says, do you remember what you told me? He says, no. And she's like, you said you would stop time. And he's like, I was better than I thought I was, I wasn't as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Insecurity crawling up on him again.
Yeah, I was a little,
Yeah.
I mean, I almost expected to have romantic Einstein back. Not that he would like try to sleep with her or anything, but
Yeah.
that he would try to
Wrong
soothe
time,
it.
wrong place.
No. But he would try to soothe it with his words, which is what he does. When people
Yeah.
are upset, he's really good with his words and
Yeah.
he makes things better. But he has one of humility, like, I can't do it all. Did that guy shock you at all? Did that moment shock you guys?
No, I mean,
No.
it was coming off of the precipice of it was his third paper being rejected now, and he was just like, I'm just gonna do my 9 to 5. I kind of give up. I'll
And
go
that-
home and I'll see
Yeah.
my son, and the father who he looked up to
Yeah.
mentioned time again, and it was off of, he mentioned time, and he's like, hold on to your son, because the next thing you know, he won't be a son, he won't be a kid anymore.
Hence that train station scene. Well, the train scene when he buys a train, 2 little trains for his son.
Yeah.
I think that funeral scene changed him to be a better father figure.
Absolutely.
Did you guys like that scene?
I
thought that
love
was a little
that scene.
touching.
I love
I-
that
It was a nice
scene.
scene.
I felt for the dad. He's like, "What did I do wrong?" And Albert kind of consoles him a little bit.
Yeah, it tells him I wish I was as good a dad as you. And it's good because we did. He had such a happy home. It's crazy how fast things changed for that family.
Yeah.
To lose not just the son, but also the mother. And then,
Oh my God, yeah, they didn't even really touch on that.
Yeah.
At all, yeah.
I love the sciencing. I mean, every time he goes into the science, we get like cool visual effects moments. It's great.
Oh, that-
But this one had a slapstick comedy of its era. It's very vaudeville in like, picture yourself on the train. I don't want to picture yourself on the train, and then you have this bigger guy like opening the doors, and it's like
And Albert's on the
rattling.
hill, and he's like, "Now close your eyes, or now look, where's the lightning bolt?
I actually
Which one
closed my
comes
eyes.
first?
I closed my eyes so I can be that character.
That's fun.
And then I watched it again. So
I tried closing my eyes. I did not see the lightning strike in 2 different places, but my brain is not a genius brain. But it was a really great scene, and I like that they even cut back to have him close the doors. It felt like a very just theatrical moment, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love this scene, and again, he makes another giant advancement in securing his future. Essentially, people understand what he's coming at. They're starting to accept his theories, and of course, at the end, Lauer comes and he's like, "So, the big guy wants to see you now. You've proven yourself. 4 papers a year."
First, he goes to his boss,
Yes.
mistakenly Einstein being this old gentleman who obviously has to run this patent office. You know, why would it be some kid all the way down the line? And that was kind of a funny little.
That was a
Yeah.
great moment. He's no good.
Yeah.
And
The
that's
guy's like,
I tried to get him to
Yeah,
brush his hair and
exactly.
trim up and
I don't
dress
do them.
nicely. I don't know what's wrong with him. He'll amount to
like
nothing.
I've given up on him.
I
but-
wish he would have said something like, "You have no idea what he just proved."
I
don't know.
like the moment
Long time,
after the ending of this episode is everything to me. I am a corny person who, when they say the name of the movie in the movie, I'm like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
genius.
and everybody's like, you're
Yeah.
a genius. And then we even get this. It's not quite a breaking of the fourth wall, but it's so close where he just got this very knowing smile, and he's like, finally, someone recognizes it, and it's just to the audience, and it's such a perfect end to all of the struggle he's going through. But as we move into predictions, it makes me feel like Einstein is about to be cutting off a lot of things that we don't see in his later life. This seems to be a large turning point of like, now that you have the accolades that you want, now that you are doing the work you've always wanted to do, you don't really need a lot of the things that you had before.
When I saw the preview for next week, I got surprised at a few stuff. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Go for it. Spill the tea.
The scene with Marie, that was Marie Curie, right?
That was, yeah.
When she says basically, well, I think they might have something going on, I'm not sure, but she says, we are not average minds, so we're not going to believe in a typical normal marriage. And then the scene where Mileva says, I saw you flirting with that woman. I don't know who that woman is, but
That
I
might
don't
have
know
just
what's
been somebody
going
else, but
on.
yeah, and then she was sniffing a letter also, and it probably had perfume on it. There's some. I
Steamy
think
science
we're
rooms.
starting to see Albert turn into Einstein, who the Jeffrey Rush.
Yes.
That we saw in the first episode. Why can't we just, all
yeah.
live together? Why can't we just all be together?
no monogamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get this sense of betrayal pretty early when he calls it her invention. I found that interesting because it's the Curies
Right.
discovered
Yeah.
radium, but he's like, but Madame Curie's radium is what he calls it.
Yeah.
In the same conversation that he's having with Mileva, where like, but I didn't think he needed credit. I'm like, how do you not see the hypocrisy, sir?
Such hypocrisy.
How are you not so oblivious? Oh god, it would be really difficult, I think, to be friends with Einstein, somebody who's so smart, but somebody who's equally just as oblivious to everything. Where you're
Yep.
like, how do you operate?
Well,
in
you
this
see the
world?
frustration in Besso sometimes.
Oh,
Besso,
yeah.
Like, you could, when they were in the patent office, he was just like so. I don't remember what was going on, but he was just annoyed with him. He's just like, what is wrong with you? How can you think this way?
Or even that scene towards the end when Dr. Lauer walks in and said, oh, Einstein, like, you're so modest.
Oh yeah.
Beso says, he is not
He is
modest.
not
Like,
modest.
this guy who wants the attention, like, finally give him the attention.
Yeah.
He jumps straight up and it's like, excuse me, no. And of course, at the end of this episode, we get the famous E=mc² written down for us for the first time.
Yes, that's so cool.
It was great to see kind of how he comes to that conclusion. You know what I mean? It's if you don't know what's coming, which again, I'm not a science person, so
I'm not
I
either,
wasn't
so.
I wasn't foretelling this was going to be the moment we get E=mc². But I like the way they built up to it, and we saw all the process, how he proved it first with numbers. And
They've
then
actually been building up to
scientifically.
this since the second episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
break it down for me, Zach.
Break it
When
down.
he was looking at the energy displacement with the heat, the sound wave displacement with the heat tube.
He
'cause
does say that
it
in the
takes
episode
different
ever
types
since
of
I had that
energy.
moment.
Yeah, so it's basing off of that. Actually, it's basing off of Mileva, because she was the one that gave him the idea to work together, to work on that thing. But yeah, I think it's been going on since the second episode. So.
And she
been a
doesn't
good
get a
build.
It's
thank
been a
you.
great
She
build.
doesn't have her name. It's just sad when you think about it.
It is very frustrating, especially for
As a
someone
woman.
who claims to be such a champion of all
Yeah.
people and a bohemian, and you can't share credit, bro. That's
Yeah.
rude.
I think
not
he
okay.
would share credit though, but it'd kind of be like, it's too late. I think maybe he would go revise the paper and be like,
this
I
is
have
a
this
lot
idea.
like the creators of Batman. So Bob was the first person credited with creating Batman. But he had this guy, Bill Finger, who was always behind the table, like, sketching, and he gave Batman the ears, the symbol, created the Joker and Catwoman, and I think Robin, too. Everything you basically know Batman for, Bill Finger is responsible for. Bob got all the credit. Bob, his whole life, refused to give Bill any credit. The minute Bill dies, he's like, I really wish I had given him the credit. And I'm like, bro, though, the power was in your hand the whole time. And that's what bugs me about Einstein. It's like, you may, like, in his heart, like, he's probably like, oh, she really deserves credit. But his brain never takes a step forward to give her the credit.
His brain is thinking, like, oh, she has my last name. That is the credit.
Oh, we are one. That's what he said. Oh, darling, but we are one.
That's so
hard. Put my name on the paper
seriously.
right now.
Like, if we're the same, then why don't you just write both of our first names, too? Like, does it really matter?
Yeah, because she has to be the one to, like, he hypothesized it, and then she has to go and prove it. So she has to actually work through, like doing homework, like going through the math of it. And she was the one kind of saying, yes, this is true. You're right.
I also think it's like a friendship thing. Like, you're a guy. You know how to have deep friendships with males. So he wanted to give his brother or his best friend credit, you know?
Credit to that,
kind of like a guy code or something.
He's like a teacher. Like, he needs the credit. Like, he's having a career. I think as much as he loves Maleva's mind, I do think he kind of wants a wife. As much as he talks about having a partner and someone to support him, I think he also wants someone to take care of him. And he kind of denotes that to Maleva. Maleva is just never going to bend to that.
That's why he marries his cousin.
Yes. So, after that, that's pretty much our episode. Let's go do a quick round robin of predictions.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
This feels extra special for this show because it's a science-based show, and I don't know why Theremin always wrote because it's science fiction. So tell us. We talked a little bit about the previews for next week. Do we think that we see Maleva and Einstein's fall next week, or do we think they're trying to keep it together a little bit longer?
I think they're going to try to keep it together just a bit longer. And I think with him getting his recognition finally, in my opinion, I think it'll be a better atmosphere in the home. Like, he's more calm now. You know, he got his recognition. So I'm rooting for them. So let's see, hopefully.
Right.
I think the opposite is going to be happening. I think this is where we see the fall of Maleva. I think she's had her story. We've seen enough of her. I think there's obviously more people in Einstein's life that influences him. I think we're going to start to see some of those characters. Quick side note, we have Brian in the chat.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Brian is saying this episode reminded him of Legends of Tomorrow, where Einstein actually gave his wife the credit. Now, I don't watch Legends of Tomorrow, so I'm not too sure what this is referencing. But
Legends of Tomorrow is a DC show that
I know
comes
what
on
it is.
the CW.
I refuse to watch it, considering because I like the Flash only.
Okay, you're missing an entire world of goodness.
It's just too much to catch up on because it's like, oh, now the Reverse Flash and the Black Flash is in this in like episode 5, 6, or whatever, and I have to go watch that specific. It's just a ploy to get you to watch all of the CW shows when I just enjoy one.
Universe building, which is a fun new medium that we're all loving. But sometimes they go back in time and change things. And yes, that was beautiful because who doesn't want to see Einstein share some of his credit? Because what I like about this episode too is that it explores the idea that no one can do anything great by themselves. This idea that it happens in a vacuum, that it's one person.
Everything's built off of somebody else, and that
and with someone else.
With somebody else, and you saw the positive aspect and the negative aspect. That we have Philip Leonard, who is like the cynicist against this, and he's just like, oh yeah, this person built off of something. And he takes all the credit. When in science, really, it's the pursuit of knowledge. Like, you want to continue to better our existence and our lives, and what if I need your help for it? You have a good idea, so we'll work together on it. And that's Einstein's side, where he, is happy about, or not really Einstein. It's more of Marie and her husband.
Well, I think the whole focus of Einstein now was basically to bring art and physics together. That was his whole goal, and he eventually does. So
yeah, I think next week we're gonna see Maleva start to radicalize. We know that she's involved in something that the U.S. government thinks Einstein might have picked up on and won't go back. We know we're headed toward turbulent times. We're getting closer to World War I. And Maleva is bored, and she is not getting recognition. And she's going to start seeking probably not just comfort, but like an outlet, like something to do. So I'm hoping we see a more radicalized, more politically aggressive Maleva next episode.
Maybe she goes back to school, because she does get her degree, right? She
I think
finally
so,
does
yeah.
get a degree after failing twice, I think.
Oh,
So
does she?
yeah,
don't know.
I think that's what we found out last week.
Yeah.
So,
So it'll be interesting. I also think we're going to see Einstein start hitting the not the superstardom that he gets later in life, but in the science community. Now that more people are interested, now that his papers are, people are like 4 in 1 year. That's incredible. How? I think he's going to kind of start his rocket to fame. So I'm excited to see how he changes as a human being when that ego starts being fed on a more regular basis.
he totally takes me as someone who's gonna like love his ego being stroked.
Oh yeah, totally.
So much, and he's like, "Oh, it's not about the fame or the money, Maliv." No, he's totally gonna like revel in it.
I want
agree.
to see if he's going to be a better father figure.
Oh yeah.
what-
I hope so. That was a nice little scene.
Yeah.
Where like he was with his son and like playing with the train and everything. Granted, he went off and came up with a better idea or something and didn't get to hang with the son too much.
But it was beautiful, and I
was.
felt bad for Maleva when he's taking the baby, and she's just exhausted and crying, and
Yeah.
just like, my God, help this woman. Oh, she's been through a lot. Any other predictions or final thoughts on this episode?
Not a final thought. I just want to see Jeffrey Rush. I want to see the.
I've been missing him too.
I want to see the older
Yeah.
Einstein now. Like, I know I don't want to fast forward, but I kind of want to. I want to see what's happening when he's kind of already established and he has that name.
Yeah.
And his relationship with his cousin. I'm just fascinated with that.
That is
So-
fascinating. I gotta say, the beginning of this episode, I really enjoyed. I was really gearing. I mean, we all know the history of it. I was really hoping, Maleva and Einstein can make it work. And the beginning of the episode was very nice. It was very happy. But then we, man, she could just turn on a dime and just her crazy comes out. And when it comes out, Maleva's,
I
yeah.
have seen Maleva
She has-
only be reserved so far.
What?
I would burn the house
Oh
down.
man, I she gets this like look in her eye, and it's like, do not mess with me right now.
She has
is
reason
passionate.
to, but she has
She's
reason
very
to.
passionate. Oh, she has every. I'm
You
not
know?
saying that she doesn't. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm a romanticist at heart, and I'm like, I wish to see the happiness between the two because that was
Yeah.
like such a nice thing in the beginning of the episode of how it seemed they were so happy and like life is working.
At
you
one
know?
point in my notes, I wrote down, what happened to their love? Because it's so
Yeah.
beautiful at times. They're
Yeah.
so
Oh
on the
my
same page and they're working
God, yeah.
together, and there seems to be this mutual respect. And then every so often, it just veers left so bad, and you're like,
It's fleeting.
bring it back together. You guys
I
are so
also
good.
I kind of want to mention how beautiful the score of the series
Zimmer's
intensifies
doing great.
every
Yeah.
time. Well, the score is by
It's by-
Lauren Belf.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
So
the theme
so he just
song
did
is by
theme.
Hans Zimmer.
Okay.
But the score of the whole series is by Lauren Belf, and every intense scene, if you notice, the score intensifies. So it gets you so much more in the moment, and it's so suspenseful. It's like you're sitting right next to Einstein.
It's
So-
wonderful.
So beautiful.
You
So
keep
check it out.
mentioning how you want to see his relationship with his wife, but
Yeah.
apparently his second wife, who is his cousin, related on both sides.
Really?
Yeah, which is so that must be some other
I'm
incest
glad they did
going
not
on.
That's
have
major incest.
children because weird and gross.
Yeah.
Thank you,
so-
Brian.
Thank you so much,
Anyway.
Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brian, this is
lots of
yeah.
facts bringing us.
Tune in next week too.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
So gross. All right then. So that has been chapter 4 of Einstein. I'm excited for chapter 5.
It
The
has.
drama is real. It's been intense.
on.
Until next week, Zach, tell them where they can find you.
You could find me at Zach with a CH Silverman 2 or at my website thezachsilverman.com.
Hey guys, you can find me on Instagram at Nobody Reads Anymore and on Twitter at Nobody Reads. And I still do have Facebook at Louiza Sharamatyan.
Yes. Elizabeth couldn't be here today, but we miss her and we love her,
poor
and hopefully she will be back here
She will.
Yay,
next week.
Elizabeth.
Excited
and
to see you.
we have a special guest next week, so you
Yes.
really don't want to miss out. It's going to be a
Definitely
lot
tune
of
in.
fun. Until then, you can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique every week at blackgirlnerds.com every Wednesday at Schmoes Know. My interview with my mother is out. It was a lot of fun. You can hear the other
Yay.
Black Girl Nerds interview their moms for Mother's Day. It was a good time. I have a review with Louis Tan, who is amazing. If you watch Iron Fist episode 8, he was the drunken master. We did that on Popcorn Talk with Rick Hong. Check it out. It was a lovely interview. And yeah. Until then, check my adventures in Instagram. We did a Renaissance fair. Tonight we're going to an all-night taco bar.
Yum.
More fun
All-night
things
taco
there,
bar?
so check it out.
coming.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
in.
going to be good times. Until then, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Yay, bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.